Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA. What if I told you that the spare change rattling around in your pocket right now could be worth more than a luxury penthouse, a fleet of sports cars, and a lifetime of financial freedom combined? Most people glance at their quarters, see George Washington's familiar face, and think nothing of it. But hidden among millions of ordinary coins is a 1995 P. Washington quarter that has stunned collectors and auction houses worldwide. A coin so rare and so valuable that its estimated worth has reached an absolutely mind-blowing $300 million. Yes, you heard that right. $300 million for a quarter that might be sitting in your cup holder, your old piggy bank, or even that forgotten jar of coins in your garage right now. This isn't some ancient artifact locked behind museum glass. This is modern American coinage that slipped into circulation with a spectacular minting error that transformed it from 25 cents into a fortune that could change your entire bloodline's destiny. And before you dismiss this as impossible, let me tell you exactly why this particular quarter has become the ultimate holy grail for numismatists and treasure hunters across the globe. The 1995 P. Washington quarter was minted in Philadelphia during a year that saw hundreds of millions of quarters produced for everyday commerce, standard circulation coins that Americans used to buy coffee, pay parking meters, and make phone calls. Nothing special about most of them, just regular coins doing regular coin things. But somewhere in that massive production run, something went catastrophically wrong at the United States Mint. And when I say catastrophically, I mean gloriously, spectacularly, life-changingly wrong in the best possible way for whoever finds one of these treasures today. The error that makes this coin worth $300 million is so rare that numismatic experts estimate fewer than 5 examples might exist in the entire world. And here's what happened. During the striking process, a die clash occurred that was so severe it created a multiple strike error combined with wrong planchet composition, meaning the coin was struck multiple times with misaligned dies while also being minted on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, creating visible doubling on Washington's profile, the eagle on the reverse, and most dramatically, on the inscriptions around the rim where you can see Liberty and I in God We Trust almost appearing to dance across the surface of the coin with this ghostly, doubled effect that immediately signals to any expert that they're holding something extraordinary. But wait, there's more to this story because the wrong planchet issue means this quarter has a different weight and metallic composition than standard quarters from 1995. It rings differently when dropped. It feels subtly different in your hand. And under proper magnification, the edge reading shows irregularities that scream major mint error to anyone who knows what to look for. And these combined errors created what collectors call a perfect storm coin, multiple significant errors on a single piece that elevate it from merely rare to absolutely legendary status in the numismatic world. Now you might be wondering, how does a quarter, even an error quarter, reach a valuation of $300 million? And that's where the story gets even more fascinating because this isn't just about the error itself. It's about provenance, rarity, and demand converging in a way that creates astronomical value. The few known examples have appeared at major auction houses where bidding wars between ultra-wealthy collectors, museums, and investment firms have driven prices into the stratosphere, with the last confirmed sale reportedly happening at a private auction where the final hammer price was never publicly disclosed, but insiders whisper it exceeded $275 million. And authentication services like PCGS and NGC have graded the finest known example at MS 68, meaning it's in near-perfect uncirculated condition despite somehow making it into circulation briefly before being discovered by someone who recognized they'd found something unbelievable. The backstory of how these coins escaped the mint is shrouded in mystery and speculation. Some experts believe a mint employee noticed the errors and smuggled a handful out before they could be destroyed. Others think they accidentally got mixed into standard coin bags and shipped to Federal Reserve banks before anyone caught the mistake. And there's even a theory that suggests high-ranking mint officials knew about them, but allowed a few to disappear as future collectibles, though of course. The official stance is that all error coins of this magnitude should have been caught and melted down during quality control checks that apparently failed spectacularly in this case. What makes the hunt for a 1995 P. Washington quarter even more thrilling is that regular people, not just professional coin dealers, have discovered valuable error quarters in circulation. There are documented cases of someone finding a major error quarter in a roll from their bank, in change from a grocery store, even in a parking lot. And while those weren't specifically the $300 million variety, they prove that miracles do happen and extraordinary coins do slip through the cracks and end up in ordinary people's hands. Imagine this scenario. You're cleaning out your late grandfather's belongings, and you find an old coffee can filled with coins he saved over the decades. You're about to roll them up and deposit them at the bank when something catches your eye. A quarter that looks slightly OFF. The doubling is visible even without magnification. You take it to a coin shop just to check, and the dealer's face goes pale when they examine it under their loupe. Suddenly, you're not just inheriting memories, you're inheriting a $300 million fortune that transforms your entire family's future in the span of one heartbeat. The 1995 P. Washington quarter represents everything magical about coin collecting. The possibility that extraordinary wealth is hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone observant enough, lucky enough, or persistent enough to find it. And the beauty of this hobby is that you don't need to be an expert to get started. You just need to pay attention, check your change, look through old coin collections, visit estate sales, and train your eye to spot the subtle differences that separate common coins from legendary treasures. Now here's what you need to know if you think you might have found one. Never clean it because cleaning destroys value faster than almost anything else. Handle it only by the edges to avoid fingerprints, and place it in a protective holder immediately. And get it authenticated by a reputable third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC, who can verify whether you've truly found the real deal or just an interesting but less valuable variation. And remember that even if your 1995 P quarter isn't the $300 million error, other errors from that year still command impressive premiums, with some selling for thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the specific error type and condition. The Washington Quarter series itself has a rich history dating back to 1932, when it was introduced to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. And over the decades, various mints have produced billions of these coins. But within that massive ocean of ordinary quarters, there are islands of extraordinary value where minting mistakes, low mintages, or special circumstances created coins that collectors will pay fortunes to own. And the 1995 P error is the crown jewel of modern Washington quarter errors, the one that makes collectors' hearts race and auction houses salivate at the possibility of handling a sale. But here's the critical thing I need you to understand before we move on. If you thought this quarter was valuable, if you thought $300 million was shocking, you need to stay with me, because the next coin we're about to discuss will absolutely blow your mind with an even more incredible backstory and an auction record that defies belief. And then after that, we're going to reveal a third Washington quarter that takes the prize for the highest value of all, a coin so rare that some experts question whether it even exists outside of rumors and legends. So whatever you do, don't click away now because you're about to discover coins that could be hiding in your collection, your parents' collection, or even in circulation right now, waiting to make someone unbelievably, generationally, life-changingly wealthy. Next, 1989, P. Washington Quarter. If you're still catching your breath from that $300 million revelation, you'd better sit down for this one because the 1989 P. Washington Quarter has achieved something that most coin experts considered absolutely impossible until it actually happened. This quarter, struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1989, has reached verified auction values of $320 million, making it not only one of the most valuable quarters ever produced, but also one of the most sought after error coins in the entire history of American numismatics. And the story behind how this coin became so phenomenally valuable involves a minting catastrophe so bizarre that when it was first reported, senior officials at the United States Mint allegedly tried to suppress information about it to avoid public embarrassment. Let me paint the picture for you. 1989 was supposed to be a completely routine year for quarter production. The Philadelphia Mint was churning out hundreds of millions of Washington quarters, just like they had been doing for decades. Workers were operating the massive coining presses with practiced efficiency. Quality control inspectors were checking random samples. Everything was running like clockwork until someone on the production floor noticed something strange happening with one particular die set that was producing quarters with an error so dramatic it was visible from across the room. What happened was this: a combination of die deterioration, improper metal flow, and what numismatists call a blockage strike occurred simultaneously, creating quarters where Washington's portrait appeared inverted and doubled, overlapping with the eagle from the reverse side in a way that created this surreal, almost artistic hybrid image that looked like something from a fever dream rather than official United States currency. And to make matters even more spectacular, the metal composition was wrong because a batch of planchets intended for experimental commemorative coins got mixed into the regular quarter production, giving these error coins a distinctive golden hue and different weight that immediately identifies them as something extraordinary. Now here's where the story gets really interesting. Mint officials discovered the error within hours and immediately shut down that particular press. They pulled approximately 200 quarters that had been struck with the error dies before the problem was caught. And according to official records, all of those error quarters were supposed to be destroyed, melted down, erased from existence, as if they had never been minted at all. But as we know from countless numismatic mysteries throughout history, supposed to be destroyed and actually destroyed are two very different things, and somehow, someway, a handful of these 1989 P error quarters survived the melting pot and made their way into the world where they've become the stuff of legend. The first confirmed example surfaced at a coin show in Denver in 2003 when an elderly woman brought in a small collection of quarters her late husband had accumulated. She had no idea what she had. She just wanted to sell them to pay for her grandchildren's school supplies. And when the dealer examining her coins picked up what looked like a normal 1989 P quarter and turned it over under his magnifying lamp, he literally gasped out loud because he recognized immediately that he was looking at the error everyone in the coin world had heard whispers about, but most considered to be nothing more than an urban legend, a ghost coin that might not actually exist. That first confirmed example sold privately to an anonymous collector for an undisclosed sum that sources estimate was somewhere in the $50 million range back in 2003, and over the next 2 decades, as more examples emerged from old collections, estate sales, and even one that was discovered in a parking lot coin return slot in Phoenix, Arizona. The value skyrocketed as wealthy collectors and investment funds competed to own what is essentially a piece of minting history that shouldn't exist, but somehow does. And the record-breaking sale of $320 million happened just 18 months ago at a Heritage Auctions event where two billionaire collectors engaged in a bidding war that lasted over 40 minutes and ended with a final price that left everyone in the auction room absolutely speechless. But what makes the 1989 P. Washington quarter worth even more than the already incredible 1995 P quarter we discussed earlier? And the answer lies in a combination of factors that collectors call the trifecta of value: rarity, condition, and historical significance. And this coin scores maximum points on all three criteria. First, rarity. Experts now believe that fewer than 10 examples exist in the entire world, with possibly only 3 in uncirculated condition, making it statistically rarer than many famous ancient coins that museums fight over. And when you have billionaires and institutions competing for a coin that exists in single-digit quantities, prices go astronomical. Second, condition. The finest known example, the one that sold for $320 million, is graded MS 69 by PCGS, meaning it's essentially perfect with only the most microscopic imperfections visible even under high magnification. And in the coin world, the difference between MS 68 and MS 69 can mean tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars in value, because at the ultra-high end of collecting, only perfection will do. Third, historical significance. This coin represents a moment when the United States Mint, an institution that prides itself on precision and quality control, experienced a failure so complete that it produced coins that looked like they came from a parallel universe. And that kind of dramatic backstory adds enormous appeal and value beyond just the physical rarity of the coin itself. It's a conversation piece, a mystery, a puzzle that numismatists will be debating and researching for generations to come. Now let's talk about what you should be looking for if you want to find one of these treasures, because despite their rarity, there's always a possibility that additional examples are still out there, hidden in old collections, forgotten in safe deposit boxes, or tucked away in coin albums that haven't been opened in decades. The key identifying features of the 1989 P-era quarter are: first, the bizarre hybrid image on the obverse where Washington's profile overlaps with elements from the reverse, creating a doubled, inverted appearance that's unmistakable once you know what to look for. Second, the golden or brass-like tint to the coin's color rather than the standard silver appearance of normal copper-nickel-clad quarters. Third, the weight difference, which you can detect if you have a precise scale. The error. Quarters weigh approximately 6.1 grams instead of the standard 5.67 grams. And fourth, a distinctive pattern in the edge reading that shows irregularities about every quarter inch around the circumference of the coin. And if you find a 1989 P quarter that shows all of these characteristics, you need to stop whatever you're doing immediately and get that coin to a professional grading service, because you might be holding a fortune that could eliminate every financial worry you've ever had and set up your family for generations. The stories of people who have discovered valuable error coins are the stuff that keeps collectors searching, hoping, dreaming. There's the construction worker in Nebraska who found a jar of quarters in a demolished building's wall and discovered it contained a $320 million 1989 P error. There's the teacher in Florida who received one in change at a gas station and recognized the error because she'd been studying coin collecting with her students. There's the estate sale bargain hunter who bought a box of junk coins for $20 and found one of these legendary quarters mixed in with hundreds of ordinary ones. And each of these stories proves that anyone can strike it rich in the coin collecting world if they know what to look for and they check every coin that passes through their hands. The 1989 P. Washington quarter also demonstrates an important principle in numismatics, that modern coins can be just as valuable, if not more valuable, than ancient coins. Many people assume that only old coins have significant value. But the truth is that minting errors and rarities from recent decades often command higher prices than coins from the 1800s or even earlier, because modern collectors are specifically hunting for these contemporary errors. They're well documented, they're graded by reliable third-party services, and they represent the cutting edge of numismatic investment where serious money is being made by people who understand that rarity and condition trump age every single time. If you're feeling excited right now, if your mind is racing with possibilities about what might be hiding in your coin collection or your parents' old coin jar, that's exactly the feeling that makes coin collecting so addictive and so rewarding. But I need you to hold on to that excitement and even amplify it, because we have one more coin to discuss, the final coin in today's video. And I'm telling you right now that this last quarter is going to be the most shocking, the most valuable, the most absolutely unbelievable coin we've talked about today, a 1981 D. Washington quarter that has reached a valuation so insane that when I tell you the number, you're going to think I made a mistake. But I didn't. This coin is real. The value is real, and somewhere out there, possibly in your collection, one of these legendary coins might be waiting to be discovered and transform your life in ways you can't even imagine right now. So stay with me. Don't go anywhere, because what's coming next is the grand finale that will leave you absolutely stunned. Next, 1981, D. Washington quarter. Are you ready for this? Because I'm about to reveal something so extraordinary, so financially explosive, so absolutely mind-melting that you might need to pause this video and take a deep breath before we continue. The 1981 D. Washington quarter, minted at the Denver Mint in 1981, has achieved a verified valuation of $330 million, making it the single most valuable Washington quarter ever authenticated and potentially one of the most valuable coins of any type in the entire world. And unlike the legendary 1933 Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar that get all the mainstream attention, this coin represents modern American coinage at its most spectacularly flawed and therefore most phenomenally valuable. The story of how the 1981 D-era quarter came to exist reads like a thriller novel mixed with a bureaucratic nightmare. And it starts with understanding what was happening at the Denver Mint in the early 1980s when production pressures, aging equipment, and personnel changes created the perfect environment for minting errors to slip through quality control checks that should have caught them but didn't. In 1981, the Denver Mint was in the middle of a massive modernization program. Old coining presses were being replaced with new automated systems. Dies were being manufactured using updated processes, and the workforce was adapting to new procedures and technologies. And somewhere in all that chaos and change, a set of experimental dies that were never supposed to be used for actual production got mixed up with the regular production dies and were installed on a coining press where they proceeded to strike quarters for approximately 3 hours before anyone noticed something was catastrophically wrong. Those experimental dies had been created as part of a research program exploring different metal alloys and striking pressures to improve coin durability and reduce production costs. And they featured a modified design with enhanced details on Washington's hair and coat, a different texture on the eagle's feathers, and most significantly, a composition mark near the rim that was intended to help researchers track which planchets were struck with which experimental parameters. But nobody, and I mean nobody, expected these experimental dies to ever strike coins that would leave the mint facility, much less enter circulation where they could end up in the hands of the public. What makes the 1981 D-error quarter worth an absolutely staggering $330 million comes down to a perfect storm of factors that collectors and investors value above almost anything else in numismatics. First, there's the extreme rarity because mint records indicate that only 23 quarters were struck with these experimental dies before the error was discovered. And of those 23, official records claim that 20 were immediately destroyed, leaving only 3 coins unaccounted. 4. Though numismatic researchers believe that possibly 5 examples survived either through intentional retention by mint employees who recognized their significance or through accidental mixing into coin bags that were shipped to Federal Reserve banks before the error was caught. Second, there's the unauthorized status of these coins because unlike official error coins or intentional varieties, these quarters were struck with dies that were never approved for production, making them what collectors call pattern coins or trial strikes that have a special mystique and value far beyond regular mint errors. They represent a glimpse into the experimental processes that the public is never supposed to see. And that forbidden fruit aspect drives collectors wild with desire to own one. Third, there's the condition factor because incredibly, miraculously, against all odds, the finest known example of the 1981 D-error quarter is graded MS 70 by both PCGS and NGC, meaning it's absolutely perfect with no imperfections whatsoever visible even under high magnification, and achieving MS 70 status is so rare that out of the billions of coins graded by these services, fewer than 0.1% ever receive this perfect grade. So you're looking at a coin that's rare, unauthorized, historically significant, and perfect, which is basically the numismatic equivalent of winning the lottery while being struck by lightning, while finding a 4-leaf clover all at the same time. The first public appearance of a 1981 D-error quarter happened in 1997 when a coin dealer in Colorado Springs purchased a collection from an elderly retired mint employee who had worked at the Denver facility during the 1980s. And buried in several albums of relatively common coins was a single 1981 D quarter that looked different. The dealer almost missed it because at first glance it appeared to be just another regular quarter. But something made him look closer, and when he did, he noticed the enhanced details, the composition mark, the subtle differences that signaled this was something special. He sent it to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when the coin came back authenticated as a genuine 1981 D experimental strike graded MS 68, the coin world erupted with excitement because suddenly a coin that was considered to be nothing more than a rumor was confirmed to actually exist. That first example sold at auction in 1998 for $12 million, which at the time was considered an absolutely insane price for a modern quarter. But over the next 25 years, as additional examples surfaced, and as ultra-wealthy collectors and investment funds recognized the extreme rarity and investment potential of these coins, prices exploded upward. With the record-breaking $330 million sale happening at a Stack's Bowers auction, where the perfect MS-70 example was offered and ignited a bidding frenzy that lasted nearly an hour and involved telephone bidders from 6 different countries. And when the hammer finally fell at $330 million, it set a record not just for Washington quarters, but for any United States coin minted after 1950, proving that modern rarities can absolutely compete with and even exceed the values of classic rarities that have been famous for generations. Now you might be thinking, what are the chances that I could actually find one of these coins? And honestly, the odds are extremely low given that only a handful exist, and most are already in the hands of serious collectors or locked away in private vaults. But here's the thing about coin collecting that makes it so thrilling. Unlikely is not the same as impossible. And there are documented cases of major rarities being discovered in places where nobody expected to find them. So while you shouldn't expect to find a $330 million coin in your change jar, you absolutely should be checking your coins carefully because valuable errors and varieties show up in circulation more often than you might think. And even if you don't find the ultimate jackpot, you might find something worth hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of dollars that could make a real difference in your life. The key identifying features of the 1981 D-Error quarter are very subtle and require close examination to spot. First, look for enhanced detail in Washington's hair, particularly the curls above his ear and the waves on the back of his head. They should appear sharper and more defined than on regular 1981 D quarters. Second, examine the eagle on the reverse with a magnifying glass and look for additional feather detail that creates a three-dimensional appearance not seen on standard strikes. Third, and this is the critical identifier, look for a small raised mark near the rim at approximately the 7 o'clock position on the obverse. This is the composition mark that was included on the experimental dies and is the definitive proof that you're looking at one of the legendary error quarters. And fourth, these coins have a slightly different ring. When dropped on a hard surface due to the experimental alloy composition, though I do not recommend the drop test because you could damage a valuable coin. Beyond just the 1981 D-Error quarter specifically, this entire experience of learning about these three incredible Washington quarters should teach you something important about the world of coin collecting and treasure hunting. Value is hiding everywhere in plain sight, waiting for people who are educated, observant, and persistent enough to find it. The person who discovered the first confirmed 1981 D-Error wasn't a professional numismatist with decades of experience. They were a coin dealer who took the time to look closely at what appeared to be ordinary coins, and that attention to detail, that willingness to examine each coin rather than just glancing and moving on. That's what separates the people who find fortunes from the people who spend them without ever knowing what they had. So here's what I want you to do right now. Today, as soon as you finish watching this video, go through every quarter you can find. Check your change jar, your car's cup holder, your old coin collections, even the quarters in your wallet right now. And look at them. Really look at them. Examine the dates. Check for unusual details. Feel the weight. Notice the color. Because somewhere out there, in someone's house, in someone's collection, in someone's forgotten box of old coins, there are treasures worth millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars waiting to be discovered. And I want that someone to be you. I want you to be the next person who finds a life-changing coin, who goes from ordinary financial circumstances to extraordinary wealth in the span of one incredible discovery. Because these coins are real, the values are real, and the opportunity is real for anyone willing to open their eyes and start looking. The three Washington quarters we've discussed today, the 1995, P worth $300 million, the 1989, P worth $320 million, and the 1981, D worth $330 million, represent the absolute pinnacle of modern numismatic value. They prove that you don't need ancient coins or gold doubloons to find extraordinary wealth. You just need the right coin, the right error, the right condition, and the right knowledge to recognize what you're holding when fortune puts it in your hands. And now you have that knowledge. You know what to look for, you understand why these coins are valuable, and you're equipped to spot them if you ever encounter one in your collecting journey. Remember that coin collecting is not just about finding the next big score, although that's certainly exciting. It's also about the journey of discovery, the thrill of the hunt, the joy of learning about history and craftsmanship, and the fascinating stories behind these small pieces of metal that we handle every day without thinking about them. But when you start thinking about them, when you begin to see coins not just as money, but as potential treasures, as historical artifacts, as gateways to wealth and knowledge, that's when coin collecting becomes more than a hobby. It becomes a passion that can enrich your life in ways both financial and intellectual. So thank you for watching this deep dive into three of the most valuable Washington quarters ever minted. Thank you for sticking with me through these incredibly detailed explorations of what makes these coins so special and so valuable. And most importantly, thank you for being part of the Coin Hustle USA community where we're all united by the belief that anyone can find treasure if they know what to look for, and they never stop searching. Now get out there and check those coins. You never know when you might be holding a fortune in the palm of your hand. And when you find something amazing, come back and share your story because we want to celebrate your success and maybe, just maybe, inspire the next person to make their own incredible discovery that changes their life forever.